4, and Sue will let you do the roll call.
Board Member Reister.
Present.
Board Member Doyle.
Here.
Board Member Cease.
Here.
Board Member Wakeman.
Here.
Board Member Chambers.
Here.
Board Member Lindmoon.
Here.
Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member DeVore is absent, and Chair Reagan.
Here. And we need a motion to approve the absences of Mike. Is he the only one this evening?
Yes, only.
So moved.
Okay, Rita, is there a second?
Second.
Hey, Lori, all those in favor of excusing the absence signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting from February 10th. Need a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
One correction I'll make note of. I didn't call the meeting to order. I think Marty did.
Yes.
Thank you.
I did arrive at about 12:03, but I didn't call the meeting to order. So I'll just make that correction. With
Yes.
that motion second and correction, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Treasurer's report, Sue?
I'll just give it. The revenue coming in for the year, I believe we've gotten all our revenue for the year. We got a little over what we budgeted. We had anticipated about $755,000 in revenue, and we got about $786,000 in revenue. As you probably know, we do project that revenue a little bit conservative when it does come in. So our expenditures, we have most of our capital outlay has been done for the year. The only one that hasn't been is the Valley Vista project. The Valley Vista project is budgeted for this current year. It probably will actually end up being amended to be reallocated to next fiscal year because the project probably won't begin until July 1st. So there's that, and then all of our bond payments have been made, and debt service has been paid. So we have about $566,000, $291 in our current fund balance account. So.
Any questions for Mike on that, treasurer's report? We need a motion for that?
No.
No, okay. Move on to public comments for items not on the agenda. Liz or Liz? No?
Liz or Sandy?
Sandy?
Oh, you can't either. No, we're just here.
I'd like to welcome the Chamber of Commerce Chairman and also the Chairman of the Alto DDA. Sandy?
Yep, thanks.
Okay, welcome.
Cousins.
Didn't know that. Okay, moving on to old business. Any old business to bring up?
The charging stations are in. They got activated on Monday. So far, we've made $9.
How much did it cost to put in?
I believe total is around $36,000.
Okay, so we got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Tell Cliff to keep
It's a kind of a public service, kind of like, you know, just as long as somebody doesn't park there, and hopefully they'll be using their own.
But if they're parked there and they're charged and they're just sitting there, they get charged. So the charging fee it's 25 cents per kilowatt hour. And so usually I think the average charge, if you're like at 60%, it's like $7, $8 from what I understand. But if you, after the charge is complete, you have 15 minutes to deactivate the charger. After 15 minutes, you get charged $5 an hour. So we had gotten,
Good.
it was originally 5 minutes. We made a mistake on Thursday or Tuesday when we activated it. It was after 5 minutes that fee was kicking in. And after talking to our resident expert, Cliff Yankovic, he said that we probably need to charge 15 minutes before that fee kicks in. So I got that fixed. So
Hopefully,
depends. So if you're from 0 to full, it's like 2 hours with those chargers. However, in most instances, people usually don't. They usually, from what I understand, is usually when you come to those stations, you're probably just topping off. So you're not maybe doing, maybe you're only doing like 20%. Or maybe you're like at 60% and you're going back to 100% or something along those lines.
Is the charging rate quicker at that?
No, it's
the same
the same rate. So like your residential like if you do it at home, from what I understand, it's about 15 kilowatts an hour, 15 cents a kilowatt hour in your off-peak times. So that's like from like 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning is usually what they charge you in your home. So this is slightly higher than that. For that charger, that's probably what's in line. If we had one of those Tesla superchargers, you could charge more because they're faster, but we don't have that. So I'm learning as much about this as I've learned more about this in the last couple of weeks than I've ever thought I would know.
Now, does it notify the person that's, okay.
Yeah, so everything's done through an app. So you have to be a member, you have to be a member of this app, and you have to have an account with this app, and the credit card is done through the app. And then what it will do is it'll alert you when your car's filled up, and that's when it'll tell you get 15 minutes. So kind of thought maybe 15 minutes was more appropriate because if someone's sitting in a restaurant or hair salon or whatever, thought 15 minutes is about an appropriate amount of time from what I understand what the trend is for those chargers.
And if we get, complaints that, 15 minutes, I'm fine with moving it to half hour or something.
Yeah, I can very easily just call ChargePoint and say, move it to a half hour.
Right.
But from what Cliff said, that's a pretty reasonable amount of time.
Okay, as long as they can notify, that they're charging
Yeah.
us down. So,
That's probably average with other places that use the app.
I confirmed that rate with, there's an individual who's a proponent of this. He works for Consumers Energy. His name is Carl Bloss. He's kind of like the guru of electric charging stations in the state. And I talked to him when we were first setting this up, and that was the rate he recommended for us. So, because I asked him, I go, what should I be charging? And that's what he told me.
Okay.
So.
where's it located again?
There are two. There's one over by the Veterans Memorial in this parking lot at the end. It's the same location as they were before.
Okay.
The difference is instead of one charging station now, there's two at each one, and then the other one's over on Broadway. So,
Okay, that's what the other one.
yeah, and then if the demand looks like we need more, we can very easily go. I already have another location scoped out over by the library. I have permission from the library to put it over there. Just once we realize there's more of a demand, then would be the appropriate time to do it. And the nice thing is these people who do this, they have apps on their phone, so they can go exactly and find out exactly where the charging stations are. It's not like,
Can't find it.
no, mostly, from what I understand, the people who have the electric vehicles, they know where all these stuff are. They don't go into this stuff blind. It's like you or I are driving in an area we don't know. We probably aren't going to know where the gas station is. But in their case, because of the technology, they can very easily find locations for them.
Does it tell them if there's a car already there?
I believe it does. Because I can tell whether or not, from my dashboard, whether or not it's being used or not. And I've actually had that happen the other day when I was looking at it. I could tell somebody, when we got our $9, I could tell that somebody was turning.
Okay.
And then this morning when I checked it, I could see that nobody was turning, so.
So King Millen gets their fleet of electric trucks going on there, hooked up to it.
They'll probably want to negotiate a better rate than 25 cents.
Goes to a good cause.
And I'm sure the people at Lowell Light Power will be glad to work with them on that.
Yeah. Okay, old business, I think, thanks for the update on that.
Yep.
New business, we got a new budget to look at.
Yep. Attaches your proposed fiscal year 2022-23 budget. This past year, we saw an approximate $37,000, $226.38 increase to the DDA fund. We originally budgeted $755,000 in the current year revenues, but we, as I said before, we've taken in about $786,000 in revenue. The major increases are the the land sales we're seeing in the west end of the district and the opening of the marijuana facilities, all of which are in the Downtown Development Authority district. For the upcoming fiscal year, we're going to see an increase total-wide throughout the city of $8 million in taxable value of real property in the upcoming year. The majority of that is actually in the DDA district, and for a city our size, that's quite significant. That being said, we probably will anticipate some tax tribunal requests as we do. I have actually right now we don't have any in the queue, which are pretty good, but I'm pretty certain we eventually will. For the upcoming fiscal year, we're projecting right now just under $800,000 a year at $799,328. In the fiscal year we're in, we originally budgeted $1,095,763.87 in expenditures. We're going to need to make the following amendments to the budget for the fiscal year. Most of these are just administrative. We have to reduce the local street fund from transfer from $184,000 to zero. This was for the Amity Street project. When we did the Amity Street project, we budgeted all of the funds coming into. What ended up happening is all the expenditures were actually charged to your capital outlay line item rather than us transferring the money to the local street fund and paying it out of there. So we didn't need to make that transfer. And our expenditures, I believe, Amity came in our total expenditures came in at $46,000, which was significantly lower than we had budgeted for that project. We did increase the total capital outlay line item from $270,000 to $318,000, and it allowed us to do the following projects, which, as I mentioned, $46,000 for Amity, which we've completed, $76,000 for the Riverwalk restrooms, which we've completed, $36,000 for the electric vehicle charging stations, $145,000 for Valley Vista's paving, which will be planning probably for July, and then $15,000 for the bricks we did around the showboat. I did increase the marketing line item this year to address the costs that we had from the last meeting pertaining to the summer concert series. And also, I was able to reduce the bond payment from $312,632 to $293,518.76 as the city refinanced the City Hall bond and reduced the payment. There are a number of routine operational expenses that are being budgeted for this fiscal year that I'm asking you to consider. The first one is $291,737 for the DDA contribution to the City Hall bond. This year I'm asking the DDA to take on the full bond payment again. The general fund needs to be alleviated as our pension costs for the general fund are increasing significantly and we have to make payments toward them. In addition, the city has to also increase their total contribution to their local street funds. We've made our police detective full-time. We've added an additional police officer. That's all coming out of the general fund. There are also multiple park and building improvements proposed in the general fund this year. And the city also has multiple retirements in the next few years where we're obligated to provide retirement health care for 5 years. So we need to use general funds to set aside for those tasks. And the way the entire city budget is structured, it allows us to meet all the tasks the city can in the way this has been presented. There's $262,000 in capital outlay proposed for this year. The first one is $120,000 for air conditioning upgrades here at City Hall. This is 75% of the expected cost, and the remainder is going to be funded by the general fund. $50,000 for the proposed handicap accessible ramp reimbursement we discussed in February. $37,500 for museum stairs. Over at the museum, the front stairs are in very bad shape. We've been talking about this for a number of years to try and address these, as I believe these are the original stairs from the building from the 1860s, and they are in need of repair. We anticipate the cost around $75,000 to pay for this. We're requesting the DDA to pay for half of this. The city has already received $25,000 from the LCTV fund for this, and the remaining portion as right now is being budgeted from the general fund. I do anticipate the city reaching out maybe to alleviate some of our costs, reaching out to either the community foundation or there's a fund through the Consumers Energy Foundation that we might be able to go to help alleviate some of these costs for the city and the DDA, if possible. There's also $5,000 for the sidewalk reimbursements for 115 Riverside for the Line Shack project. There's $100,000 set aside to pay off the loan the DDA has with Lowell Light Power for the purchase of the property between the library and Riverview Flats. Paying this off, we have 3 additional payments we need to make in order for the debt to be resolved. However, by paying the $100,000 off all at once, the obligation is resolved on the issue and we can move on. And then I budgeted the same amount for marketing this year for marketing, which includes all of the Chamber of Commerce event sponsorship and the concert series at $20,000 for next year as well. And then costs associated with the social district. As you know, we do not provide police and fire staffing or fire pit staffing every weekend for the social district, only during certain weekends, and this cost accommodates that. So I've attached is the budget and the cash flow for the DDA. After the end of the fiscal year, with all these expenditures, the end of the fiscal year for the upcoming year, you would still have $96,889 in reserve, which is still 12%. That does give you a pretty reasonable cushion in the event something happens and we need it. I believe all these expenditures fall in line with eligible expenditures of the DDA district. So I'm recommending that the Downtown Development Authority amend the budget, the current fiscal year budget, and approve the fiscal year 22-23 budget as presented.
So paying the city hall's bond is a legal
Yes,
expense?
because the building is in the DDA district and it's a public improvement.
And last year we paid the full payment?
We paid the full payment for about 4 years now.
Same thing with the museum steps, it's owned by the city too.
Correct, it's in the DDA district, it's a public improvement, yes.
And then how about the light and power purchase of that property? That's something new, isn't it?
No, we approved that loan 2 years ago. So this would just pay off the loan. It was a 5-year loan. We've made 2 years payment on it. I believe it's about $33,000 a year, but this would just pay it off.
What are we being charged for that?
What do you mean?
What kind of rate are they charging?
Like 1.75%. It's very low. Yeah.
So is there a reason to do it?
Just to get rid of the debt. I mean, you could still not, you could just make the annual payment, but I figured if things came along, we started actually doing some other projects next year, we have the money to do it. Because then we don't have to keep making that payment.
You may want to remind us, how did that all work? What are we paying for?
What do you mean?
The Lowell Light Power thing.
So, okay, so the issue that came about at the time was that there was a pending lawsuit with the city and Unity Flats, the development over here. And the land, as part of that settlement, the city agreed to purchase, basically it's called the Oklahoma property, which is the property adjacent to the library and Riverview Flats. So the agreement at the time was because the city didn't have the money to purchase the property, and it is in the DDA district, the agreement was that the DDA would, that the Lowell Light and Power would loan us the $165,000 to pay off the property, and then we would pay it back in 5 years installments. So that was the agreement that the city, the DDA, and Light and Power agreed to.
That all had to do with underground utility.
Yeah, that was the condemnation issue.
Okay.
So we ended up paying to fix the problem rather than Lowell Light and Power fixing the problem.
Rather than the city.
Rather than the city being held with the lawsuit, yes.
We were the city's funding source.
Yes.
Because the city owns it, we don't.
Right. Yeah, and the city, and Light and Power, even though it was Light and Power's issue with the utility, they cannot own real property. The city is the only entity that can own real property, so that's how the city was involved.
That's just,
Do you have projected other things in the next 5 years?
I'd like to start thinking about that. I'd like to start thinking about improvements along this area. I'd like to start thinking about improvements on the other side of the Riverwalk. Those are things I'd like us to consider. They're gonna be multi-million-dollar projects, probably, at least something on the other side of the river, but I think it's something that we need to start thinking about.
Are streetscapes still in the realm?
You're probably another 10 years away from anything on M21.
Okay.
You're probably at least another 10 years. You probably don't need to do anything right now. I wouldn't let you do anything for another 10 years because I believe the last one was done in around 2002, 2003, so the state's just not gonna let you do that.
So we're entering with a projection of a 12.1 fund balance, 12.1% fund balance.
Mhm.
What did we enter last budget with, do you remember? Was it around the same thing? 12%?
No, actually, last fiscal year, at the end of, when we put the budget together last year, we thought we were only gonna have about $64,000 at the end of, on June 30 this year, what we projected. So it's a little bit higher.
A little bit higher.
Yeah.
What did we use up of that 64,000?
We usually what ends up happening is you end up coming in much higher fund balance because maybe projects didn't get completed in the one fiscal year, so you carry them over to the next fiscal year. That's how I approach this.
Okay.
So, I am very conservative when it comes to budgeting, so on paper, I tend to always show that the budget's probably gonna be worse than it actually ends up to be.
What do you think it's going to be this year? The 96, what do you?
Probably, I think you probably come along those lines. You'll probably come in around that because the projects we have this year, they're gonna get carried out. So, a lot of times the reason why you don't have you have the higher fund balance is because maybe you had a project slate and you just couldn't get it done. So when June 30 comes, it'll look like you had like a $300,000 fund balance, but at the end of the next year, you'll spend it, so then you'll have maybe 60,000. It's
let you carry over on your checkbook.
right. Yeah, I would rather have some cushion rather than spending
Sure.
everything down to zero.
Right.
And I would rather, when I look at the budget, even projection this year, with the projections I give you, there's some things there's line items that you may never even spend that full amount, but you project that you're going to, because that's the conservative thing to do, and that's what we have to do from our budgeting reporting requirements. But
And that's the way it's been because the street projections came in higher than what they really were.
yeah, we've also got some pretty good savings in some of these street projects. These projects, we project them. We project them based off what the engineer tells us, and then when they go out to bid, they've been coming in way lower than what we've had them projected at. However, I have a feeling this year that's probably not going to be the case. But in years past, we were anticipating over $500,000 for Amity, or we were $500,000. I believe that total project between all the different accounts, it came in at about, this includes engineering, that about 360. So that's significantly less. The Jane Ellen project, which is not a project you paid for, that came in almost $100,000 less. we've had some street projects, we've been very lucky, we've had some street projects where we've got some pretty good pricing on it. I don't, like I said, with inflation as it is right now, I don't think that's gonna happen this year. And I always, even when I project out, I mean, I have street projects projected out for the city 7 years out. And I use basically what the engineer projects what they're gonna be. And I think as time evolves, we're probably gonna see, the last 5 years, we've seen, at least on the street projects and the projects that we've done, they've come in significantly less than what we project them. I have a feeling this time around, they're gonna come in more in line with what the engineer has them on paper for. Might even actually come in more, but it, a lot of times it's a guessing game.
Sure.
But I'm very, when it comes to, I don't care if it's the general fund, the water fund, I'm very conservative on how, and we're very meticulous in how we put this, how we manage this.
Well, good. Good.
How many more years on the city hall bond?
2033. So another 11. Yeah.
Okay, budget proposal, we need a motion and a second. Brian, is there a second?
Second.
Here. Any further discussions? Thanks for all the work on that, Mike. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Reports and member comments?
I just have a couple of questions. What are the hours for the Riverwalk restrooms? Because I know you can lock them remotely.
The timer's not done yet, from what I understand. Once the timer's on, it'll be like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. However, I think in the week, Bruce has been opening them on the weekends, right, Dan?
Only when there's an event.
Okay.
That's good to know because sometimes
Yeah.
people are asking that kind of stuff.
We'll open them Saturday.
Right, okay. Yeah, I know there's timers that we've got on order. I believe they've been on back order for months. Hopefully, next couple weeks, maybe we'll get them in. Once we get them in, then we can go 9 to 9, or 8 to 9, whatever that might be, daily.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Maybe I missed it. Are they open during the week at all? If you're there, if the chamber's open, are they open during the week at all? No.
They will be once the timer's in.
Yeah, that I know. I'm just, right now with people know.
Well, I think the time, I heard Jim Salzweedl, I thought he said it's in.
I haven't heard that.
You haven't heard it? Okay.
I can check with Jim. I know,
Because we're waiting for it for the shovel too, so.
yeah, I remember him saying that things were, I thought maybe he had talked to me about maybe some of the wiring that was ready to come in or something, but, or maybe it was the keypad thing, but I don't recall it.
You know, one thing though, you guys should think about is, the bathrooms really need signage. Nobody really knows it's there.
Okay.
And we put a funky sandwich board out. It's very cool. So it'd be nice to have some signage on it.
We can do that.
Okay.
And we actually, just so you know, I just got the new signs for the Schuylkill District. They just all need to be updated. They're in my office, so they gotta be redone.
Any other reports, member comments?
Stony Park parking lot is in pretty bad shape.
Okay.
Anything else? I don't know if I've had a chance to thank Lori and Nicole for volunteering. If you didn't know, this will not pay your 401k. Volunteers. So thank you for volunteering your lunch hour so far for this. So, any other?
We'll probably start doing lunch again, probably in the fall when things are set up. We talked about that this morning.
Okay, anything else for Mike or Brian? Rick? No, okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Eric, is there a second?
Okay.
Next meeting, Mike?
So the next meeting would technically be May 5th. I am actually out of town that day. I do anticipate us having a May meeting, so I'd like to propose May 12th. We'll have bids for Valley Vista that you're gonna need to approve, and I'll probably have, my plan is to have information for you about the reimbursement for the handicap ramps.
Okay, and I think Lori had a hair appointment.
Right, so we were able to
Yeah,
accommodate
it
that.
works for me.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone else opposed? Can stay here.